Also, the Court of Appeal has affirmed the election of Sharif Oberewere of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) as the governor of Delta State in the March 18 governorship poll. The judgment was delivered nearly 2 months after the Delta State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal upheld Governor Oberewere's election. The three-member tribunal had dismissed the petition filed by former Deputy President of the Senate, Ovie Omoagege of the All Progressives Congress (APC). The tribunal held that the petition contained unsubstantiated allegations, noting that it was devoid of merit and speculative. And still on election litigation, the Court of Appeal has dismissed the appeals by candidates of the Young Progressives Party, the New Nigeria People's Party, and the All Progressives Congress (APC) as it affirmed the election of Governor Umo Ena of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) in Akwa Ibom governorship election. The court held that the appeals filed by the other party lacked merit. At this point, let's take a short break, and when we return, it will be time to speak with our guest of the day, who is an economist, Kayode Oyedeji, for discussion on President Bola Tinubu's economic goals 6 months after inauguration. Please stay with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now to our interview with the guest of the day. I'm joined by an economist, Kayode Oyedeji, for discussion on President Bola Tinubu's economic goals 6 months after inauguration. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Oyedeji. Always a pleasure having you in politics
thank you very
tonight.
much for having me too.
Right. So let's start with the way the President's administration has been running the economy in the past 6 months. I mean, arguably, President Bola Tinubu was handed a country with huge socioeconomic problems. And added to that challenge, or the challenges, was the fallout of the fuel subsidy removal. It's been 6 months. What's your impression?
Well, it's been a mixed bag, really, and that's expected. He inherited a very bad economy. The economy was in a bad shape when he came in. Remember, we were just recovering from COVID. Then we had our own internal challenges. We had all kinds of things. Then we had to go for the election. Shortly before the election, we had an unprecedented development which led to lack of cash scarcity, that led to heightened inflation and all the like. So we came in at a very challenging period. The economy has never been that precarious since the end of the Civil War. We will probably have it that bad during the June 12 crisis or so. So he inherited a country, an economy that was in a very bad shape. The government was on a life support, if I can put it that way, borrowing money every day to sustain itself. By the time this government left, it was in record that it had borrowed about 23 trillion naira by ways and means from the CBN. So we were practically living each day as it came before the new government came. We're living on life supports, borrowing money, minting money. Nobody knew exactly what was happening. There was instability, there was inflation. The inflation was rising at a very rapid state. There were inconsistencies in policies. There were policies which the unintended consequences were not properly evaluated. So Mr. President had his job cut out when he became the president. And I think he was quite aware of some of these challenges. And he left no one in doubt that he was going to run an economy that would be market-driven and be private sector-led. That determination led him to undertake some very unprecedented reforms within the economy, which has to do with the removal of fuel subsidy, then removing the neck-jack foreign exchange system and making it to reflect the market, to also make it to be market-driven. So by and large, he has set his foot on a very challenging mission. He has embarked on a very challenging mission, but he's taking it in his stride. In fairness to the president, he's taking Nigeria through a difficult but inevitable route or reform. if were implemented, many of us who are following or analyzing this government believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel, but it's going to be quite challenging. The results which we have so far is not sufficient enough to pass a judgment on him. In terms of at the level of strategy, he has done very well. He has lived up to expectation. He has done what he said he would do. And interestingly, what he's doing now, what he said he would do, there was a consensus surrounding those things before the election. All the three leading candidates agreed that that should be the approach. They agreed that fuel subsidy has outlived its usefulness. They agreed that foreign exchange system should reflect market dynamics more, and government should stop funding foreign exchange or subsidizing foreign exchange or using scarce dollars to keep the naira alive. So what he's doing is clear to him, and I think it is clear to key observers of his government that he wants key reforms that will promote efficiency within the economy. He wants key reforms that will put the private sector at the front of the economy. He wants reforms where wealth to be created that will lead to wealth creation, and that wealth creation will be managed, will be promoted by key private sector players. And when you have that kind of wealth creation, it always leads to empowerment of every economic agent. But you see, that's on one side. These reforms are not cheap. Critical reforms in every economy always come at a very huge cost. This is not different. We are undertaking a very difficult reforms at a time when Nigerians were already pushed to a difficult position, when they have become very poor in terms of what they have as disposable income. But he has to do what he's doing because there are two options. Is either we will continue the way we have continued, we have run the government in the past 15 years or thereabouts, and we'll all come to a sudden end. Or we change the ways we are doing things. If he had left things the way he met it, by now it is likely to be that Nigeria would have become bankrupt, would have had a much bigger economic crisis at hand. We'll have crisis from the labor movement. We'll have state governments that will not be able to pay living wage or any form of wage. In fact, as a matter of fact, the previous government borrowed not just for itself, but also for other tiers of government, the states and local government. So everything was in a mess. So the new direction is very clear. Nigerians will make sacrifices. So that sacrifice is taking resources from the pocket of an average Nigerian to government resources, to government coffers, so that government can be viable. And what government will do in return is to make sure that the resources at its kitty, at its disposal, is used to bail out the people too. This is where the challenge is, creating a balance between the two. We have swallowed the bitter pill. The citizens have swallowed the bitter pill. They have made sacrifices. The disposable income in their pockets has been halved or reduced considerably. So it's left for government now to expand its policies to make sure that the benefit of these reforms get back to households and businesses. The benefits of these reforms translate to job creation. These reforms translate to improvements in people's welfare. And government is working on that too. How much of result they're able to get will be determined by the level of seriousness and honesty they put into it. There is a committee presently to review the tax system so that we do not have multiplicity of tax system, number one, then that they're able to expand the tax net so that government can consolidate on the little gains achieved. Then in addition to that, government has set out targets for itself. In 3 years, government wants to grow the economy to $1 trillion, which is commendable. To achieve that from what we have, about $450 billion or thereabouts.
Before we get to that, because I'm very interested in that, I mean, the president, upon assumption of office, the president went on to form his cabinet. And as we speak, you can say the economic team of the president is in place. But for you, what impact do you say the team has made on the economy?
Well, we've had 6 months so far. It's too early to assess the impact of government policies. The current impact is that of making sacrifices, like I said, taking money from the citizens, taking money from wherever government can get it, and taking the money, making sure that the money sustains government. Government does not collapse. If government collapses, then the economy has collapsed, Nigeria has collapsed. So what government has done within a few months of its existence is to make sure that it strengthens government's position to be able to bail out citizens. So it's a mutual thing. We are bailing out government. The government will deploy that resources which we have given government through the removal of fuel subsidy and other means to bail citizens out. So the process is long. 6 months is too short. But you see, the kind of cabinet it has formed, there are concerns that it is a little big, relatively big at a period like this. But then he has been able to create some specialized ministries that he wants to anchor. I hope I'm not speaking too much for the government, but from my own view, he has been able to, he's planning to anchor his reforms, his growth strategies on. One of them is the solid minerals. You see there is more activities there. You see a lot of activities around that sector. Then you look at the gas sector. The Chancellor of Germany was around recently, and the discussion centers on Nigerians supplying gas to Germany, and of course other European countries follow. It's looking at how to make more money from gas than oil. It's looking at how to make more money from solid minerals than oil. And you see what is said all over the world, what is under the ground is more than enough to take care of everybody on the ground. What is under is big enough for everybody on it. So he's focusing on that. He has created a blue economy. If you see the package of that ministry, it's likely to be another cash cow for government if government is able to do that. If you look at Works Ministry, for instance, the minister has been very, very ambitious. He's been talking big. He's looking at big projects, one that will run from Lagos to Abuja, for instance, and will reduce travel as our 5 hours. He's looking at building a cross-nation road that will pass through Lagos, Sokoto, and Co. And these things are anchored on what the private sector can do. So looking at his government, politics is settled. It's moving away from politics. There's a new CBN governor who has been very conservative, who has been trying to do the little he can do to create stability at the foreign exchange. He inherited a backlog of about $10 billion, which the previous CBN elsman could not even, obligations he could not meet. He's doing that, he's sorting it out gradually, step by step, without making so much noise. The effect of that too will begin to emerge in another 6 months or thereabout. So 6 months may not be the best time to assess the effects. If you evaluate the impact, it's going to be the pains which people are going through. And I want to say at this point, it's been quite challenging for an average Nigerian. It's been very tough for business. An average Nigerian is spending more than double what he was spending before the president came on board. An average Nigerian is struggling to hit. If you look at the figure released recently, food consumption alone dropped about 3 billion naira during the month. People are consuming less because they have less money. That's an indication that hunger may be very close to most homes. Most homes are reducing consumption because they can't afford more. Inflation is on the rise. Food inflation itself is about 30.6%, and it's likely to continue like that for the next 3 months or so. But the good thing about all of this is that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Absolutely. If government is able to pursue these reforms to a logical conclusion, there'll be empowerment, there'll be wealth creation, then people can now begin to take positions, businesses can begin to review their operations in a way that they will be able to take advantage of government policies. And
I mean, we're seeing how committed the president is, but of course, everything cannot be left to the federal government. And this is where the roles of the state governors come to play. For you, how will you rate their complementary roles?
Well, I think one thing the president himself needs to do very quickly is to make sure that the subnational governments, they buy into his philosophy, his economic direction, his economic philosophy as quickly as possible. There is an online blog that's been running analysis on government expenditure at the state level. if the figures they are churning out, then there's still a lot, it leaves a lot to be desired. It seems to me that the governors are not determined to make a change. They are not very keen about changing the ways things are done. They still want to live big on people's sweat, people's sacrifice. They still want to run big governments. They want to travel all over the world. If you look at foreign inflow of investment in the last 2-3 months, you see that it's only 8 states that have been able to attract investment from abroad, led by Lagos and a bit of Ogun, then 1 or 2 states here and there. You then begin to wonder why governors travel so often, jumping from one plane to the other all over the world, what they're achieving. Then if you see the kind of structure they keep, they live so large, they keep very big cabinets, and when you compare that to the growth of the IGR, you are left confounded. When you look at the structure we run at the state level, they are not sustainable. You need to compare the structure to what we have in the councils in the UK, for instance, where the mayor of a council in the UK lives a very Spartan, prudent life, and their budget is probably 4 or 5 times the budget of an average state in Nigeria. He is probably the only one who has a chauffeur. Every other person goes by public transports. But it's not only the state, it's all across our public sector. Number one, we need to look at our budgeting system. We need to purge it and make people have confidence in our public finance. People must be able to say, you are asking us to sacrifice. What level of sacrifice have you put into government? What level of sacrifice is reflected in your lifestyle? The way you spend government money. So at the level of the states, President Tinubu is trying to carry them along by saying, okay, let's have infrastructure support program for you to encourage you before you can draw from that. You have programs, you have some projects you want to execute, then there is support for you. That's just to make sure that they are involved in providing infrastructure as time goes on. How much of that they are able to do? But the reality is that at the state level, people find it very difficult to appreciate the fact that they have to go through a very difficult period, and the governors are not showing it. The big cars are rolling in, cars that are 400 million naira cars, 600 million naira worth of cars. It's cut across. People want to see the lifestyle. People don't want to feel the presence of government by seeing their big cars or their big lifestyle. People want to see them sacrificing and putting in projects that will support the federal government, projects that will make life bearable for the people. So it's a tough one, but the president must know that he has access to just about half of the federation accounts. The remaining half goes to about 48% goes to states and local governments. And if they don't have adequate buy-in into his projects, he may not be able to run those reforms successfully.
So let me corroborate your statement with this reminder by the Vice President at the just concluded National Economic Council meeting. The Vice President was reminding the governors and other members of the Council that the weight of the tough decisions to rescue Nigeria's economy depends on their cooperation and goodwill. How much expectations do you have of these governors?
To be honest with you, 1 or 2 of them have showed that, okay, in Lagos, for instance, there were a deliberate effort to make transportation and logistics cheaper for the people. But when you go to what each of the states have presented as budgets and the kind of things that form their recurrent expenditure, you begin to wonder what's going on. They need to sanitize the budgets. They need to sanitize the expenses, the finances, in such a way that there is more, the cost of running government at the state level becomes smaller and smaller and smaller as possible. They've reduced the state governments, for instance, to contract awarding institution, just award contracts. Then people are happy. They play more of politics than governors. They keep offices instead of providing services. So the cost of maintaining these offices, the huge number of aides, you just wonder if they will ever have anything for development. There's a state where you have a governor employed over 180 aides in one day. What are they coming to do? What has happened to the civil service? What about making the civil service more efficient, more buoyant, in such a way that it can undertake most of the activities these so-called aides are undertaking? And of course, they just employ these people for political patronage. And they go into government and become very rich. People are watching. We can hardly sustain ourselves. We can hardly get food to eat. But people who are going into this government do all kinds, especially at the state level, they are all living large, living fat on the sweat, the sacrifice, the burden, and the ordeal of an average Nigerian. I think this is very, very traumatizing. But then it's one of the things, the change must come from the top. The president must have their buy-in, and the president must find a way through peer support mechanisms and co to make sure that they are compelled to do more than they are doing now.
So allow me to deviate for a second. In what other ways can we hold state governments accountable? You know,
there's this peer analysis they used to do. They have to attach some benefits to performance. Just like we have a super banco. You will have your own contribution. If you achieve this milestone, then you can assess more and assess more. I think the president should look in that regard. Then the other one is to actually strengthen the anti-corruption agencies. The anti-corruption agencies should be strengthened. We're almost getting there. When Malam Nurubadu was in charge of the EFCC, he was trying to create a mechanism by which you can trail whatever comes to the federation accounts. You can trail it down to the last user or beneficiary of the funds. So from there, you can ask the state government. Some of them resisted that, say, no, we will go to court and the court will tell you you don't have jurisdiction over our funds. But such things must be brought back, where the anti-corruption agencies will be empowered to look at every kobo coming from the federation accounts, how they are disbursed, what they are used for. That's number one. Then sensitizing the general public. This is what, you know, everybody in Nigeria, for instance, most people in Nigeria, for instance, believe that fuel subsidy removal is for the benefit of the president or the federal government alone. Whereas the federal government is going to take just about half of the benefits. The remaining goes to local government and states. There are some states in Nigeria where, if you see what they spend money on, they spend money on just nothing, capacity building that will result into nothing, foreign trips that will yield nothing. These are the challenges, and that's why people are not very, very comfortable about government taking so much from them, paying tax, government telling them, please make this sacrifice, things will be better. So a lot has to be done at the state and local governments. As a matter of fact, there are some local government that earns about 6 billion naira per month in Nigeria. And people can't pinpoint what that money has been used for.
It's been used for.
The local governments, in fact, they don't exist in most states. What are their responsibilities? The markets, the inner roads and co. No one can point to, I don't know if there's anywhere in the world. So the budget system should be enhanced. Then there are some agencies like budgets and co. They are trailing, they are monitoring, tracking all these jobs, all these budgeting activities. They should be strengthened. I know ICPC too started doing something on constituency funds. If you've made provision for it in the budget, we want to see what you have done, we want to see the level of payment, we want to see the level of the milestone achieved. And so we need to strengthen this. We have to be deliberately making sure that they go after government resources as it's getting to local government, as it's getting to the states. What are they using it for? Then sensitizing the general public, making them to know that, see, your money is with your governor, your money is with your local government chairman. What do they do with it? Don't let them just buy big cars and oppress you. Don't just make them chiefs. Don't just make them leaders in religious institutions. Begin to demand for accountability from them.
All right. So the National Economic Council, chaired by the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, is a platform for robust interaction. Do you think it's too early to start assessing the council?
Well, they've only had a few meetings, and they'll be deliberating more on how to deal with the effect of the fuel subsidy removal. And to have a good grant to actually assess their performance, especially the current one, would probably need another 6 months. And by the time we have a complete year, be able to say, okay, there's a direction. They've been able to align the council with the ambition of the president, with the programs of the president. So I think it's a little bit early to talk about the outcome of most of the performance of the council.
So let's quickly talk about some of the president's steps to attracting foreign investors to the country to boost the economy. How would you think this is yielding the desired results?
Well, you know, every economy is looked at based on its ability to deal with uncertainties. We've had a high level of uncertainty the last 6 months because of the court cases and co. Well, you notice that immediately the court case was dispatched, it was resolved in favor of the president. Enthusiasm from foreign investors heightened, moved up. Like I mentioned earlier, the Chancellor of Germany had to come in, talk to the president. The president has made a return visit to Germany. He has made considerable gain. Many of them, when he went to India, we know what you did in Lagos. We saw what you did with Atlantic, and we are ready to move in our investments. Lagos State, for instance, has been on the Fourth Mainland project for a long time. They've been able to get support, get commitment for funding over $1 billion or thereabouts. So much of that will come once they're able to place, to determine, to say that, okay, there's stability of foreign exchange, there's security, there's government commitment, then we'll begin to have more and more inflow of that. Like I always tell people, Nigeria is a big market that cannot be ignored by any serious investor all over the world. Of course, investment funds, equity funds are competing for the safest and the most productive environment. But if they continue to intensify work, making the security, improving on the security situation of the country, making people to have more confidence in the economy, making people to consume more, to have more income, then you can be sure more and more foreign investments will come into Nigeria.
Right, so I want us to focus on that trip to Germany and the key takeaways from that trip. How significant is it for the country?
Very significant. The main thing is just the president has created a ministry for gas, and the potential in gas is as much as, if not more than oil. It seems to be the future of the industry. And don't forget, the Ukraine-Russian crisis has made Europe, as a matter of fact, to begin to look beyond that direction. They are beginning to look at Nigeria. So what the president has tried to do is to position himself to take advantage of that. We have enough gas reserves in Nigeria. Look at that direction. Let's find a way to be a main supplier or key supplier so that Nigeria can earn more foreign exchange, even from gas than oil. So that's a major focus of his adventure, the visit of the Chancellor and the President's frequent trips. He was also at Saudi Arabia too. And the same thing, they want to help Nigeria to get out of its current foreign exchange trap. Nigeria urgently needs to generate enough foreign exchange to clear the backlogs to make the Naira stronger in the immediate, while we focus on intensifying production, developing agriculture, developing infrastructure, and making the economic work better.
Right. So, Mr. Yediji, one key message of President Tinubu to investors is that Nigeria is truly open for business. As a stakeholder, how favorable would you say the market is at the moment?
The market in terms of the size of the economy, the potentials for people to earn good income, Nigeria has always delivered in terms of rate of returns more than most countries. When we executed good reforms in the economy during Obasanjo's second term, Nigeria was probably the biggest destination for investment in Africa. At the point the economy achieved double digits, we had about 12% growth in the economy 1 year. That's the impact of good reforms. We are hoping that we are able to manage the reform process. The whole world is watching. If we are able to push it through properly, open up the economy, give incentives for people to come in, lure them in quotes, lure investors to come, explain the dynamics, create effective regulatory environments, create stability in the exchange rate, in price index and other likes, then you can be sure investors will come. We have a large market. We have almost 200 million people looking forward to hit, looking forward to do, but we need that foreign investment to come again so that I can kickstart the economy and begin to make bogus growth again.
All right, let's take a break. Tonight, I'm speaking with an economist, Kayode Ediji, and we're focused on President Bola Tinubu's economic goals 6 months after inauguration. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Politics Tonight. Thank you so much for staying with us tonight. I am speaking with an economist, Kayode Oyedeji, and we're discussing President Bola Tinubu's economic goals 6 months after inauguration. Mr. Oyedeji, let's go on with the conversation, and I'd like us to look at some of the statements President Bola Tinubu made to these investors. I mean, for instance, it says that all bottlenecks to investment in Nigeria have been removed. Let me ask you, what are those bottlenecks?
Well, we are talking, the bottlenecks, the ease of doing business in Nigeria can be very challenging. He has set up a tax reform that would remove multiplicity of taxation. And he's talking to his state governors. The state governor said, see, let's work with this committee to make sure that we don't have all kinds of hindrances to people's income. There is a local government rate. There are, I think, about 40 forms of taxation or thereabout. They've identified that they are removing the bottlenecks. The president has given clear mandates, and that's what is most important, the body language of the president as well as his commitment. He said every bottleneck, break it and let's get on with business. If there's any hindrance, please refer to me. So the president is looking at dealing with the security problem. Is doing as much as we need to do. The security architecture remains a little challenging. But if you look at it generally, security has improved in the last 6 months. The rate of kidnapping, the rate of banditry and all that has improved. And that's one key thing that government must continue to focus on, ensuring continuous improvement, making sure that there's security of lives and property, then encouraging and providing incentives by way of financing to the citizens. And that's one area which all investors will eventually benefit from. We are going from the reforms, or we are expected to go from the reforms to an era of financialism. From what the president said repeatedly during the campaigns, it is not ideal for you to say level 6 should remain hopeless, or you think he or she will not be tempted to steal money to build a house, creating a mortgage system that will be well-funded, well-capitalized mortgage system where young people new first-time ownership and can have first-time ownership of houses and go. We hope these programs will begin to unfold. Another one which you talked about, students' loan, for instance. These things are intended to create an enabling environment and stimulate people's activities within the economy. For next year, the student loan will start. From what the president said, the full details, people are still waiting for it. So when investors know that there is security and people are being empowered, they will come and put on their own investment too. And from there, people can... Consumption is low in Nigeria. When we say consumption, we're not talking about food. We are talking of goods and services. But ability to procure, ability to buy goods and services, very low. There's a new minimum wage coming in. And in principle, they've increased the minimum wage, I think, to like 60 or 65,000. So when people have more money, there must be production to satisfy the need for that. If not so, you have inflation and all this stuff. So the incentives for investors to make money, they're there, either in the financial system, in manufacturing. But of course, we must get the reforms right. There must be stability in price, there must be foreign exchange, we must be able to put an end to rise in inflation so that it doesn't become hyperinflation. So like investment, and when there is investment, there's consumption, there's increase in investment, then there's increase in job creation. So it's key for government to work more, put more effort to making the country more secured.
I mean, yes, the president has shown huge commitment, but you and I know that saboteurs within the system will not just sit and watch. What stringent measures do you think should be in place?
Well, I think you mean to make sure that there's security and all that. The important thing is to have, number one, efficiency within the public sector. And when we talk about efficiency, it's about putting the right people, determined people at the right place, having the right tools to work with. For instance, there was a time NAFDAC was a hit in Nigeria. We saw the level of efficiency which NAFDAC brought into the to their operations. That gave a lot of people confidence to invest in food and drugs and all that. So we are talking, what government needs to do is to make sure that there is efficiency, and it has to come from the top. Government must begin to insist that key appointees work within certain codes, within certain performance standards. And the president said that much at the retreat for his ministers and his cabinet members. There'll be a section there, the presidency, that will be managed by the special advisor of policy, where performance will be evaluated from time to time. And before you evaluate performance, you must set targets. That means the president must have targets. Now, one thing the government must do is to be able to create a link between this system and the general public, so that they are fed with genuine and sincere information. A situation whereby the citizens can tell this, can be able to express what is going on. For instance, Lagos State has a lot of bad roads. If government of Lagos State is committed and sincere, there should be a mechanism, a platform where I can take the picture of the bad road and load and say taxpayers' money is needed there for renovation. So government for rehabilitation, and that's the kind of process we think government would bring up. You know, there was a time they brought in the whistle-blowing policy, and I don't know, maybe it was abused or government was not so committed to taking full advantage of that. There should be that kind of process. Citizens will be able to say, I walked into immigration office, I was able to process my passports within 1 week, 2 weeks. It's, you know, it's in the open. Must be able to say, I traveled Lagos, but I used to spend 2 hours, now I spend 1 hour. Must be able to say, I traveled from Ilesha FA, it used to be 4 hours, now it's 2 hours. So the feedback mechanism is key for citizens to be able to talk to government, talk and connect to that office that will evaluate performance at the end of the day. So it's very key.
So the president also assured the investors that their investments are safe in Nigeria. But what do you think the government needs to do to ensure this?
The government is doing a lot. Like I told you, what do investors look for? They want the security of their investments. So that in terms of policy, there will be policy somersaults. If you make a policy today, I bring my investment based on that policy. They want to be sure there is consistency in that policy, in its implementation, sustainability. They want to be sure that there is no somersault over a period of time. Then they want to be sure there is security for their personnel and for the investment. Then another thing is they want to be sure when they need the investment, they can be able to recall it. There is no siege on the repatriation of the investment. It was bad that we had a situation in the last 8 years or thereabouts. People could not take out the investment. They brought in money. It was getting into Nigeria, but getting it out of Nigeria was difficult. That's one thing government must work on, the security of the investment. If I put in $10 million today in Nigeria, I have a profit of $2 million, I want to take it out, I should be able to repatriate my profit. And if I'm done with Nigeria, I should be able to repatriate my capital. So these are the things that government must work on. Then the ease of even doing business in Nigeria, government must also look at it more. There's still a lot of bottlenecks, getting certificate of importation, going through CBN, going through different banks. They have to make it faster and more effective.
So I'm asking all of these questions because of the kind of challenge we have when it comes to implementation in this country. And you know that Nigeria needs to do its own homework to ensure these deals are secured by the president and are well implemented. But what do you think the government needs to do to ensure success of all these deals?
Well, we've had reforms in this country and they were quite successful. Okay. During President Obasanjo's last 4 years' time, we had a series of all kinds of reforms. We had monetization. We had quite a number of them that opened up the economy for investments. And it wasn't a risk that people walked into Nigeria and talked to financial advisors and say, what can I do? Okay. I have these funds abroad, I want to return it to Nigeria. Nigeria attracted a lot of expertise from abroad, both from Nigerians in diaspora and foreigners. You see people going to the UK, to the US to do job recruitment every now and then, bringing back a lot of people. So the kind of reforms we are talking about is one that will make markets to reflect government's commitment, that will make the market forces to be effective, that will put this private sector at the forefront of growth. And that's easy to do, that's easy to sustain if the president has the will and the right people to support him.
Right. I mean, we know that Nigeria has a big challenge when it comes to forex and declining value of our naira. But these deals, what impact will these have on the president's effort to bring investments into the country?
Well, like I said, we need stability, foreign exchange stability. People want to be sure if I bring in $1 at 500 naira today, in 1 year, it will be $700, 700 naira to $1. It will be a loss. People want foreign exchange stability. It's key. But you see, when you take you migrate from fixed exchange rates to market exchange rates to floating or whatever, there'll be a series of adjustments. So Nigeria has a lot of explanations to do. That's why they said the president has to lure investors. You have to do more than normal to bring investors in. We'll have a series of adjustments, which is what we're having now. Ultimately, after a period, market will stabilize itself. If you allow the interplay of market forces, demand and supply, to work within a well-regulated environment, you see the fair value of your price and everything. So we're having a transition period for the foreign exchange. It's trying to find its fair value. Government has said we will not use dollar to defend the naira. So when the time comes, the value of having a devalued currency is not really the problem. Okay. The problem is actually having productivity to position the economy to benefit from it. Japanese yen is always well devalued compared to the dollar, for instance. But Japan is a manufacturing country. They have the manufacturing warehouse. They manufacture all kinds of cars and all the likes. So they take advantage of that. They make a lot of money from exports. Now Nigeria has a currency that's devalued itself. Not that government deliberately devalued the currency. Government just stopped managing it. Okay. Government decided to make it determine its own value. Now there's an opportunity for exports, international trade. That means government must begin to look at what items can be easily and readily, the low-hanging fruits, the food manufacturing, processing, pushing them out of Nigeria. It's unfortunate that Ghana produces more, so exports more yam than Nigeria, for instance. In fact, they come to Nigeria, they take this yam, they put it in their basket, in their bags, they're packaging and take it to Europe. Then when you get to a store in the UK, you see product of Ghana. And you begin to wonder why we don't have so much of that in the UK. In the UK, and they show product of Nigeria. So government needs to look at this low-hanging stuff and say, how many of these items can we gather together and begin to push so that citizens can benefit from the devalued or the current state of the exchange rate? It is not a totally bad situation when your currency is devalued. It's better when it's strong, no doubt. But if you have this kind of situation, you can still profit from it. So government must look at those benefits that we can have from the current state of the naira.
All right. So what more can government do in taming inflation in the country?
Government is doing a lot already. When the CBN, for instance, removed the restriction list, it was deliberate. The CBN was not stupid to say, okay, bring in things and don't protect the home industry, don't protect infant industry.
So many people condemned that policy.
Yes, but the CBN was deliberate, and the CBN is forward-looking. It's a strategy to curtail inflation because the inflation in Nigeria is demand-driven. You have shortage of food supplies, shortage of raw materials that can come from abroad and augment what we have locally. So what government is doing is actually to boost supply. And if you put those items on restriction list, some of them, not all of them, like toothpick and cough, because everybody knows it's common sense to know that you don't need to import toothpick. And some of them are actually on prohibition list. But what CBN has done is that some of them, essential food items, essential raw materials, some of the banned items are also raw materials for manufacturing, for agriculture, for instance. You need maize, for instance, to produce your livestock feed. So what CBN has done is to say, remove this restriction list. Let as many items as possible come in legally, or if you're on the trade prohibition list, of course, the border police will stop you from bringing them in. So if you're able to improve on the supply of some items, inflation will eventually come down, food inflation in particular, because whether we like it or not, there will be more supply of those items.
So, I mean, talking about agriculture, some analysts have called on the federal government to focus on agriculture to boost the economy. How much of a potential is that sector?
Yeah, it's a good mine, but are we ready to do the difficult job? You see, nobody, when people talk about...
when you say difficult job, what exactly is difficult about it?
Okay, I will try and talk a little about it. If you had traveled before to the up countries in Nigeria in the 80s or thereabouts, I'll give you an instance which I can relate with. If you move anywhere in Osun State, you go to any of the farm settlements, you see all kinds of plantations along the road. If you go into the farm settlement, you see a community of agile, willing, determined people living within the system, doing very active in agriculture, and they are producing a lot, fruits and food, but you hardly see them now. Everybody, there is rural-urban migration because everybody wants to go to the life of the cities and other likes. So people have left the farm. Government must be able to bring them back, take them back to the farm. And government must be able to invest so much in agriculture to the extent that we can begin to practice mechanized farming system. Now, we've not been able to do over the years because, number one, corruption. Number one, the orientation supports the fact, has always supported the fact that city life is better than rural life. And because government has not been able to guarantee safety of the harvest, and so government must now go back to the drawing board. Why have they left the farms? What are the infrastructure on the farms? When Awolowo conceived the farm settlement scheme, he put in place a school, hospital, pipe-borne water in virtually every home. It's unbelievable. If you had gone to the farm settlement in the 70s or in the 80s, which I saw, of course, I saw with, you will see pipe-borne water in front of every home, every house. There'll be houses for them. Then if you move, you see hospital, you see schools for them. It's a community of committed young people tilling the ground, producing farm, producing a lot of things. That has changed, but we must go back to and that's where I said the hard work lies. If you see the way he designed the farm settlement scheme, very close to the farm settlement scheme, we have the agri-mechanized division of the state there, where people can go and make a book for a tractor, for plow, for harrow, for planter to come and work on their farm. So everything is well organized. Those things are no longer there. When you travel up country, you see forest and bush, and you see farms in piecemeal. Nothing is organized. And when they do this, the few of them who are on the farm, when they do this difficult job, moving the items from the farm to the city to becomes a challenge. Presently, some people are saying, if you have to move tomato from the north to the south, the cost is so high that people prefer to waste them on the farm. So these are the things government must look at. Number one, funding agriculture, the land tenure system, the mechanized system, the orientation, the storage system for post-harvest. So it's a difficult work, but unfortunately for Nigeria, we must go back to that dynamics, we must go back to that, do the difficult work, begin to get people back to the farm, begin to invest genuinely and sincerely, and begin to protect people's harvest.
Right. I guess that's a good way to end the show. Thank you so much, Mr. Kayode Oyedeji, an economist. Thank you so much for always sharing with us your wealth of expertise on all of our issues, especially economic issues. Thank you so much. We sincerely appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a great weekend.
Audacious riders and drifters have come together for one cause. The ultimate audacity.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV. Are you worried about the safety and security of your home at night? Do you wish to know when intruders come close to your home? Or do you want to protect what matters to your family from anywhere at any time? What if there was a convenient, affordable way to keep surveillance in your home without having to worry about wires, installations, or heavy light bills? Introducing the incredible Sidebulb HD Cam, the robotic 360-degree two-way torque camera with action tracking technology. Sidebulb is the ultimate solution for discreet and powerful surveillance. It's so easy to install, and the app lets you rotate and view the video from your Sidebulb in real time from any smartphone. You can drop in from anywhere and check in with our two-way talk technology. Talk and listen at the same time.
Hello, Mommy.
Hey, sweetie. I'll be home soon, okay?
Sidebulb's advanced tracking technology locks onto motion and tracks in real time. Set the siren alarm to go off when motion is detected and keep intruders away. Check in on your home while you're away. Make sure the kids got home safely. Interact with visitors at your doorway or surprise a trespasser.
Surveillance in a light bulb. I was amazed at the 360-degree rotation. It gives me a full view of my house and I can check in on my kids. The footage is clear and the night vision is so impressive. The best part, I can add multiple side bulbs for a complete home surveillance.
I really like my Sidebulb. It's so easy to use. I just downloaded the app, I put it on my phone, and I add it up and run in about 3 minutes.
Traditional surveillance systems are bulky, expensive, and difficult to install. But with Sidebulb HD Cam's innovative design, installation is as fast as changing a light bulb, and it's made for indoor and outdoor surveillance.
The Sidebulb HD Cam is now available in Nigeria exclusively from ShopX TV. You could be paying up to 200,000 naira for an indoor and outdoor security system that doesn't fully secure your home. But call the number on your screen now and get the Sidebulb HD Cam for just 45,000 naira and get peace of mind. And that's not all. If you call now, we'll give you an extra Sidebulb at no extra cost. That means you buy one and get one free for 45,000 naira. But wait, there's more. If you order now, you get the Sidebulb HD Cam delivered to you for free wherever you are in Nigeria. So, call the number on your screen now or visit our website to place your order while stock lasts. The proceeding was a paid presentation brought to you by ShopX TV.
Experience information and entertainment like never before as TVC Breakfast takes your weekends to a whole new level. Introducing TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, your ultimate source of thrilling sports updates, insightful political analysis, and captivating entertainment news. Stay in the know with what's trending. Catch up with the latest in sports and immerse yourself in the latest buzz from the world of music and movies. Your weekends are no longer just days off, but moments packed with knowledge, excitement, and enjoyment. TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, only on TVC News.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
The Jiwa Kingdom in the Federal Capital Territory has communities in close proximity within Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. 3 of these communities, namely Angwan Kanu, Kudagba, and Jiwa Soho, are now to be displaced by the construction of a second runway at the airport. In October, the federal government was officially handed the affected communities' land measuring 12,000 hectares so the construction can begin. At that ceremony, the aviation authorities assured the locals of due compensation alongside the provision of infrastructure. The contractors were also advised to ensure the community members are engaged as laborers.
We have already concluded plans to put so many projects for the Jiwa community in the 2024 budget. A health center is coming to the Jiwa community. I think a bridge also, one of the most sought after bridge, and the roads. Our brothers and sisters you see in Jiwa community, they are able-bodied. Able-bodied. So we don't want to hear that some welders are coming from outside to work with you. Carpenters are coming from outside to work with you. We don't want to hear that artisans are coming from outside to work with you. We don't want to hear that laborers are coming from outside to work with you, to clear the environment. And it must be the sons and daughters first of Jiwa community.
Several weeks after that event, I pay a visit to some of the concerned communities to see how those displaced are gearing up for resettlement elsewhere. I see construction trucks leaving lots of dust in their trail as they drive along the dusty road leading to their site. A few locals are also observed passing by. The first community in sight is Angwan Kano, where a few hundreds of indigents live. The community is very calm as we drive in. Some residents come to know my mission here, and I tell them. 48-year-old Isa is a farmer with 2 wives and 11 children. He tells me this community has simply refused to accept the compensation as what is being offered is too small.
Let them pay compensation to be good.
25-year-old Aisha also resides here. She has 3 kids and her husband works at the airport nearby as a janitor. She tells me her family farms several cash crops on their